Thanks for staying with us. So, Liberia's lawmakers, according to report, have agreed to cut about 30% of their total earnings in the country's 2020 budget. The lawmakers said the move is to help the West African nation meet the important IMF standard. So we ask, what are your thoughts on this, considering the fact that our president recently, our federal government recently also advised that we reduce the costs, the spending costs of our lawmakers. All around, we're seeing this new trend of reduction in governance. And Liberia took that bold step. In your view, do you think it's something we should begin to consider, or considering?
On that note, we all agree.
No, but listen, we have to also consider our population, consider that issue of federal character, ensuring that everybody's represented. There's always that issue. As much as we like to compare ourselves to Liberia, but the entire Liberia is not as much, the population we can't compare to that of Nigeria. So as much as we like to jump on what Liberia is doing, let's be sure that we're thinking about this critically. Are we ensuring that everybody from the four corners of this country will be represented? If we do that, either removal of Senate or total cost. Let me hear your thoughts.
I think we have a problem. I don't think, we definitely have a problem. As a country, we have a lot of selfish leaders who play lip service to serving the people of this country. And so you would hear statements like this over and over again, but nobody is pushing that policy. Nobody is making the move to make the sacrifice on their path. So I see the need, we definitely need to reduce our budget that goes to the National Assembly. And when I saw Liberia do it, I was like, no, your view needs to raise this hashtag, National Assembly pay cuts, and let everybody scream about it, because we realize that social media has power to cause change, and people need to pay attention to these things. We have too much money going into our National Assembly, and what exactly is their job? The people are poor. The people are poor, Murayo. We have #2 in the world in terms of the poorest, malnourished children. And yet we're dedicating 5.5 billion naira to buy vehicles. So we have selfish leaders. And if they refuse to make the move and sacrifice, the nation, the people should hold them accountable and force them to make the move. So yes, your statement about federal character is important, but we already have the House of Representatives showing federal character, so we don't need the Senate also to show federal character. We need to have a National Assembly that reflects the state of our economy.
Okay, so I would agree with Tokwe on that. I like the fact that people are we're having talks on this pay cuts from different countries. I'm happy with what Italy is doing. I'm happy with what Liberia is doing. I'm happy with what the President did, that was about last week when he did the Ester codes here, the cut down of the Ester codes. I'm very happy, but that is not our problem. Our problem is the cost of governance. Let's not make the legislatures our scapegoats. They are not the scapegoat. They are not the problem. If we cut down their pay and we still run our government the way it is being run today, we will still get into trouble. Because how much are we really going to save from cutting from the legislatures? They are not the problem. So we need to look at it holistically. We have 3 arms of government. We have the executive, we have the judiciary. We are all saying that the cost of governance in Nigeria is too expensive. We are looking at the presidential system of government. Has it worked for us? Should we go back to the parliamentary?
Wait, I'll come to that, because when you talked about cost of governance, I mean, I have been privileged to work closely with a few people, government officials, and I see the kind of work they do. And I've seen one person using his own private car to go and do inspections, go around schools, and I'm thinking to myself, so why are you using your private car? Even I had to do a few of those with my own car, and I hit my car. My car is in the house now. Now, in that kind of situation, you say cost of governance. But the truth is that some of these lawmakers need those vehicles.
They don't need it. They don't need it.
Calm down. Remember, we all raised alarm when they wanted to purchase vehicles for our lawmakers, saying we don't need that. So, should they be using their private vehos to go and do inspections across the country?
Of course. Exactly.
So my car that was bashed because I was going to go and help somebody. My car is there. I've not fixed it.
You are saving your nation.
Okay, so this is what I think in answer to that question is that we're not saying that the government should not provide the tools that it needs to carry out a job. It should, but also you need to do it. It should be commensurate with what is happening on ground. So instead of buying SUVs, things like that, that cost millions of naira, which makes no sense. Let's look for proper utility vehicles that can do this work. And they do not cost as much. And I'm seeing we're trying to also market a particular Nigerian brand. Let's look into that and see what we can do for that industry and government at the same time. Also, going back to the initial question, I really commend the Liberian government for doing this. And I agree with Obiajulu, which is we're sort of making the legislature like the scapegoat, because really, you know, the 2020 budget, it's what goes to our National Assembly is 1.25 billion, right? And that is just a little about 1% of our budget. So even if they were to cut their salaries by 50, it wouldn't make much of a dent, you know, in the expenditure. So what we should do is the cost of governance. And it's not in people like that use their private cars to do work. We're talking of governor. He's traveling from one state to the other. He carries a retinue of people. He's traveling to a country. He carries like 40, 50 people alongside him. Do you understand? Those are the things that actually...
by the executive. We must acknowledge that the executive...
That is where... Yeah, that is where I am even going. It seems that the executive has that mindset that, okay, we understand where these costs are and we are tackling it. So it gives me hope that this government actually is probably sitting down with a team and they're looking for best ways to address our issues.
Yeah, yes. Can we bring it to states? Because after we deal with the federal government, let's bring it to states. So when the federal government has a large chunk of the money, the next person that gets majority of the money, actually the states get majority of the money more than the federal government, because they get the fund for both the local government and the states. So we focus our eyes and our attention on the federal government when the closest government to us is the state government. So we must also hold the state's House of Assembly accountable on what their budget is and what they are funding. And I think every Nigerian should understand that we are a poor country. We're thinking based on Giant of Africa back in the days. We're no longer that financially strong. We are borrowing for everything, internally and externally. So when you have a poor country, you must cut your coat according to the material available. You can't be borrowing money to buy yourself cars and be specifying imported vehicle. Why?
Now you can catch up with your favorite programs on TVC. Log on to www.youtube.com/TVC Entertainment. Join the fun.